The sample is normally over 600 microns thick, which is not easy to be cleaved into chips, so we need to lap it. Put the sample on the sample holder. Make sure the substrate side is facing up. Bake the sample holder on hot plate, and then use the wax to lock the sample on all 4 sides. Remove the excess wax by just a little slide, but enough to lock the sample. Put the sample holder onto the lapping handle, and lock it with the screws provided. Before lapping, we need to measure the thickness of the sample on all 4 sides. The original thickness of the sample is normally 650 to 700 micron. Then we need to focus on the thinnest side of the sample, so we don't overlap the sample. As we can see here, the central part of the lapping handle, where the sample is pasted, can be lifted up and down. When doing lapping, make the edge of the handle contact with the lapping paper firstly, and slowly drop down the central part. Put the lapping paper onto lapping machine and lock it. Apply with sufficient distilled water to wet the paper. Use a timer to count the lapping time. The lapping rate for gallium arsenide is about 100 to 120 micron per minute. Put the handle on the rotating lapping plate and slowly drop the central part down. When the central part contact with the lapping paper, start the timer. We need to keep applying distilled water onto the lapping paper during the lapping process. When time is up, take off the lapping handle and clean it with distilled water. The black dusts on the lapping paper are the gallium arsenide that removed from the substrate of the sample. You may need to do the thickness measurement several times during the whole lapping process to make sure not to overlap. The target thickness is about 100 to 120 micron. The lapping surface tends to be very rough, so we need to polish it. Put some aluminium polisher into the beaker. That's just about enough to cover the bottom of the beaker. Then add some distilled water into the beaker Stir it to let the polisher fully dissolve into the water. Add the polisher solvent onto the polishing paper, and then do the polishing process. It will be the same as the lapping. The polishing time is about 5 minutes. Keep applying the polisher solvent during the process. Add some n-butyl acetone into the container. It is used to remove the wax that attach on the sample to clean the sample. Put the container onto hot plate and cover it as the solvent evaporates quickly. Put the sample holder on the hot plate and use the wax to create a pathway so that the sample can be moved off from the sample holder. Carefully take the sample off and drop it into the acetone. Wait about 3 minutes to let the wax fully dissolve into the solvent. Use the solvent to clean the sample holder with tissue. Carefully take the sample out from the solvent. The sample is very fragile now. Wipe and dry the sample with the tissue. To compare with the samples with and without lapping polishing process, the thickness difference is very obvious.